Pushing the pen, Takara finished the shadow of the little star. Her forearms were now covered with tiny stars, flowers, and mysterious symbols. And in the center of her palm, the full bloom of a single rose. The petals seemed deep and full. It was magic, and soon the journey would start. When she was young, her mother taught her the art of shadow walking. She watched her mother's hands lightly move over her arm, decorating with little symbols, so small but so powerful. The rose on her palm was her favorite. A simple flower would do. But why not have fun with it? Takara smiled softly, pushing away the memory and focusing on the task at hand. If she messed this up, she'd be in big trouble. She admired the drawing's intricacy. Her brow furrowed. Something was missing. She slowly turned and gazed out upon the open window. A soft breeze wafted across the room with the scent of cherry blossoms. Melodious twitter of bird song permeated the air. The bird? She wondered. A sign of flight. Freedom. She smiled again. In minutes she sketched a small bird. On the back of her thumb it perched. That feels right. Whole, she thought, and closed her eyes. Her dark lashes splayed across her smooth face. Inside her head, a light dream spin began at first. Then she felt the need to clutch her arms close. The dizzying spin grew stronger, and then she disappeared into shadow walking. The spinning eased and finally was at a slow rotation. Something wasn't right. Before she even opened her eyes, Takara knew she was in the wrong place. The earth shook and clung to her cloak and skin like a parasite. It was sour, acrid, and dry. Something was wrong. Her eyes fluttered open, afraid of what she would see. A grim landscape of tall black trees greeted her, their branches bare, looming over her. Flames and smoke surrounded her. The fire was grey, void of color, like everything in this cursed landscape. Her hand flew to her face in shock. Her work was perfect. How could she have ended up here? Her mother always told her never, ever go to the shadow plains. What went wrong? She wondered. My drawing is perfect. Frantic, she searched her arm, trying to find a flaw, but there was nothing. Flawlessness. And then she noticed her right hand on her fingers. She used to hold that little pen. Ink! A smudge of black ink ran along the heel of her palm and up the side of her little finger. Ugliness. Unattractive. This flaw sent her into the shadow plains. There would be no water here, no sign of life, only death. She tried rubbing it off. It was dry. She had no liquid to erase it. Spitting in her left hand, she rubbed the right smudge, but doing so, the drawings in her left hand smeared too. She realized in a panic she left her pen in her room. Trapped in the shadow plains, her breathing quickened. Scanning the terrain, Takara noticed a trickle of liquid. It puddled between two banks of smoldering earth. She crawled through the smoke, bathing both arms in hot liquid soon as the markings were gone. With no marks or images, she had no way to navigate home. She knew shadow walking with drawings was possible. Her mother had done it before, but Takara never had such success. Every time she tried, she ended up in some random place, but she knew she must end up somewhere better. She closed her eyes, focusing on the symbols in her head. The dream spin of shadow walking began again. Takara waited for the spinning to end, but it didn't. Why didn't it stop? She opened her eyes, but couldn't make sense of what she saw. Everything was spinning. She was falling. Flailing out of control. She couldn't tell which way was up. A sudden wall of ice hit her skin. Piercing cold water froze her immediately. Shocking all her senses, she found light that blurred the sun above her. She reached toward it. Wildly clawing her way to the surface, she broke through the water, gasping for air. Floating there, she took a second to catch her breath. Looking around as she treads water. Surrounded by deep blue waters, there was no land until she looked up. Mysterious islands floated in the sky above her. A new network of vines and bridges connected to them. Where was she? The water was cold and the clothes heavy. She surveyed the floating islands. Takara noticed some long, dangling vines touching the water's chilly surface. If I swim and grab one of those vines, I can climb up. After a few minutes of splashing and paddling, she held on to a thick green vine. Surface ripples cheered her as the vine pulled her floating body across the water. The wind must push the islands around like paper kites, she thought, staring up. She wondered, did she have enough strength to climb the vine? It didn't seem too unreachable, especially if she could get a drooping vine between the islands. On those, she could swim across, hand over hand, and climb onto an island edge. She began pulling herself up, reaching an intersecting vine. The weight of her wet clothes annoyed her. She considered the impudence of shunning the soggy burden, but recklessly abandoning her clothes didn't seem like a good idea if people were above. She shivered. Perhaps the sun might dry her. All this effort and danger was caused by an aimless ink blot on her right hand. She mentally chastised herself for the blunder. If she survives this, she wouldn't soon forget the cost of a smudge. She finally made it to the island bank and scrambled up. A loud, sharp noise caused her to scurry and hide in the vegetation. Under broad tropical leaves she waited, wondering. Peering through the leaves, she tried to spot any unexpected visitors, but the clearing was empty. As she emerged from hiding, her wet feet swept out from under her. She hit the ground with a thud. Then sudden shock forced the air from her lungs. Her dizzy head spun. Her fuzzy vision came back into focus. Curious figures with deep, rich, caramel-colored skin surrounded her. Their decorated bodies were covered by woven cloth and colorful shells. An array of sharp weapons pointed at Takara. A woman emerged from the back of this odd group. The small sea of onlookers parted for her. Was it in reverence or fear? How can someone of such small stature command such power? Takara thought. Intricate drawings decorated the woman's left arm. Shadow magic. A shadow walker here. She spoke to Takara. Her language was beautiful, but unintelligible. The seamless sounds and words flowed together like gentle music. Takara couldn't understand any of it. A somber silence fell over the group. A tall figure joined the small woman. It was clear he was also once a stranger. He didn't blend in with the people. His pale complexion made him odd and different. To these people, he's a stranger, she thought. Like me. She knelt and glanced at the blankness of Takara's wash-clean left arm. He stared into Takara's eyes with curiosity, with respect. He patted her cheek. He translated the small woman's words, speaking slowly. Great Kedar, you are very late. Takara's eyebrows nodded. Oh boy, Takara muttered. They think they know me. Oh joy.